Have you ever wondered why that person you crave so much keeps treating you like a backup plan? Why they give you just crumbs of attention while you offer your whole heart? The answer will shock you, because the truth is that most people make the same devastating mistake. They do not know the greatest human psychological weakness, a vulnerability so deep in anyone's mind that, when you discover it, the person literally cannot ignore you anymore. The ancient Stoic philosophers knew this millennia ago, but this wisdom was buried and forgotten. Today, I am going to reveal exactly what that weakness is and how to use it to your advantage, with 10 strategies based on neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and applied Stoicism. What you are about to discover will completely reverse the dynamic of your relationship. The person will stop giving you crumbs and start begging for your attention. But attention, this only works if you apply the 10 strategies I am going to teach correctly. One single mistake and you can destroy everything. Prepare yourself, because after this video, you will never be the same in relationships. You will leave here with the power to not beg for love, but to attract those who truly value you through stoic detachment, emotional control, and an unbreakable mind. You will understand how to turn rejection into fuel, how the other person's brain can be reprogrammed by your balanced presence, and how Stoicism transforms crumbs into a genuine emotional feast. It is not empty theory, it is practical application you can start today, step by step, with real-life examples from everyday situations, so you can see exactly how to implement it in messages, dates, or daily discussions. So, write in the comments, "Today I rise." This will anchor in your mind that you do not need to beg for anyone's approval. Let us begin. Master your mind, or it will master you. And that is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to dismantle the weakness that makes you accept crumbs and build the stoic strength that makes others chase you. Before we dive into the 10 weaknesses that will change everything, comment now. Today I rise. Why? Because when you write it, you activate a neural commitment circuit. Your brain registers the public declaration and turns words into real action. This is not magic. It is neuroscience. This phrase represents your victory over emotional dependence. It reminds you that control starts inside you, not in the other person's approval. Let us begin. Pause and reflect. What is one moment where you accepted crumbs in a relationship? Hold that thought. We are turning it into power. Chapter 1. Wounded Ego. The fragility no one admits. The first and most devastating weakness that every person carries is something nobody admits. The ego is extremely fragile. It seems contradictory, does it not? After all, people show themselves so confident, so secure. But the naked and raw truth is that behind that facade, there is a deep insecurity that needs constant approval. When you understand this, you gain incredible power. The Stoics, like Epictetus, taught that the ego is an illusion, a mental prison that makes us seek external validation. In neuroscience, this is the reward system, dopamine released by social status. From childhood, we are programmed to compete for approval, creating a need that, if not satisfied, generates anxiety. Imagine a friend who always praises you to feel good about themselves. Now think of the person in the relationship who does the same. They expect you to inflate their ego with constant compliments, but when you do not, the imbalance arises. This social pressure, evolved over millennia, makes the brain interpret rejection as a survival threat, activating stress responses like elevated cortisol, which only worsens the dynamic if you give in. While others fawn and inflate the person's ego, you do the opposite. Do not praise everything. Show high standards. Stop acting as if the person is perfect just for existing. When you cut the free validation, something awakens. Restlessness. The person's mind starts to question, why does she not admire me like the others? It is not cruelty, it is Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not seek external approval, cultivate internal virtue." Psychology confirms scarcity increases value. If you deliver admiration for free, it loses weight. But if the person has to earn every recognition from you, it becomes an obsession. See a practical example. Suppose the person sends you a casual message about their day, like "I had an important meeting today," expecting praise. Instead of responding, "Wow, you are amazing," say something balanced like, "Interesting. What did you learn from it?" This subtle response does not inflate the ego, it challenges it. The person feels the lack of the usual validation and starts to put in more effort in the next conversation, perhaps sharing something deeper to earn your praise. Another living example. On a date, if the person brags about a work achievement like a promotion, do not say, "Wow, you are incredible." Ask, "How has that changed you personally? What is next?" Their ego, used to easy applause from friends or family, now seeks real approval from you, creating a cycle where they invest more time and emotion to feel validated. Think of an everyday scenario. The person posts a photo on social media of a trip or achievement, expecting likes and comments from you. Instead of being the first to praise, wait and comment something reflective, like "Looks transformative. What impacted you the most?" This pause makes their ego question why you did not react as expected, leading them to initiate private conversations to test your interest. Over time, neuroplasticity rebuilds. Your indifference becomes their new pattern. You do not humiliate. You elevate the relationship to something authentic, where the ego does not dictate the rules, but Stoic virtue guides the actions. This not only attracts respect, but builds a connection based on mutual growth, where the person learns to value you without needing constant fawning. Pause and reflect. Where have you been inflating someone's ego to keep their attention? What if you stopped? How would that change the dynamic? Chapter 2. Strategic silence, the void that consumes the mind. If there is one weapon that makes any person lose sleep, it is silence. Not cruel silence, but calculated pauses that leave their mind working overtime. The human mind hates information voids. In psychology, this is the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks obsess. When you stop explaining feelings, stop responding immediately, you create a void that the person fills by thinking about you. Stoicism teaches temperance, control impulses. Seneca warned, "Speak little, listen more." Neuroscience shows silence activates the default mode network, DMN, where rumination happens, but now about you, not their day. This network, responsible for wandering thoughts, can be an ally when directed toward positive curiosity, but if uncontrolled, it leads to anxiety. Stoic silence balances this, transforming rumination into constructive desire. Practical example, the person sends you a dry message at the end of the day, like, "It was a bad day at work." Instead of responding immediately with advice or excessive empathy, wait a few hours and say something brief like, "I understand tomorrow is a new beginning." This silence creates doubt. Why did she not ask for more details? What is she doing now that she is not responding like always? The person starts initiating deeper conversations to fill the void, sharing vulnerabilities to regain the usual flow. Another living example, during a light discussion about future plans, instead of defending your point of view with long emotional arguments, say, "I will think about it calmly," and change the subject to something neutral, like a book you are reading. The silence forces the person to reflect alone on their words, and in the next interaction, they return to the topic with more vulnerability, seeking your opinion to close the open cycle and avoid the discomfort of the broken expectation. See, in a more advanced relationship, if the person cancels a plan at the last minute due to tiredness or commitment, do not insist or complain with long messages. Respond, "No problem, take care and rest," and disappear for a whole day, focusing on your own routine. The absence of the expected conflict activates the DMN, making them question, "She did not care that much? Did I do something wrong for her to accept so easily?" When you reappear casually, the conversation flows with more investment from them, because the silence planted the seed of curiosity and subtle fear of loss. Do not overdo it. Dosed silence creates mystery, not total indifference. With repetition, you train their brain to value your presence. You shift from reactivity to strategy. As Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinion about them." This practice not only improves the relationship, but strengthens your own mind, reducing the rumination that others' silence causes in you, creating a balance where both communicate with intention, not impulse. Pause and reflect. Think of a recent conversation where you over-explained. What if you had used silence instead? How might the other person have responded? Chapter 3. Inverted mirror. Break the pattern. Flip the power. There is a technique that flips the game. The inverted mirror. Most people act predictably. If the person pulls away, you chase. But what if you did the opposite? The human mind lives on patterns. In psychology, this is violated expectation. When the expected does not happen, confusion arises. Neuroscience explains, breaking patterns activates the prefrontal cortex, forcing reflection and neural reconnection to adapt. Stoicism from Seneca. Reflect what you receive. If the person gives crumbs, give balance. If they delay, delay more. If they provoke jealousy, ignore it. This breaks their control cycle, transforming reactivity into conscious proactivity. Practical example. A last-minute invitation to go out, like, "Hey, want to come now?" Instead of accepting excitedly and cancelling your plans, say calmly, "I have commitments today. How about next week with advance notice?" The person expected immediate gratitude for the opportunity, but receives a boundary. Confusion activates. Why did she not jump at the chance like always? What changed? They start planning better to regain your time, investing more effort in future dates. Another living example. If the person responds to messages in a dry and sporadic way, like a dry okay to your question about their day, do the same. Respond with brevity and wait for their next step without filling with questions to keep the flow. The violated expectation makes the person wonder, is she losing interest? Do I need to put in more effort to get back the animated conversation from before? See, in a conflict situation, if the person ignores an important point of yours in a conversation about feelings, like you are exaggerating, do not force it with long emotional arguments. Change the subject as if it does not matter that much, saying, "I understand your side. Let's talk about something else." The inverted pattern forces the person to reflect alone and return to the topic in the next interaction, seeking approval to close the opened cycle and avoid the discomfort of the broken expectation. In longer relationships, if the person prioritizes hobbies or friends over time together on weekends, reflect, go out with yours, and share subtle photos of fun in a group without direct comments. The inversion awakens. She is not waiting for me at home. What is keeping her so busy? Over time, the person adjusts priorities, inviting you to joint activities with more planning, because the mirror shows the imbalance without direct confrontation. Do not fake it. Be authentic. You level the playing field, showing self-love. With time, the person adjusts to deserve you, as Stoic virtue teaches, internal justice first. A final everyday example. During a family dinner or with friends, if the person dominates the conversation, talking only about themselves, reflect with questions about you or the group. And how does that apply to my vision of the future? The inverted pattern forces reciprocity, transforming one-sided conversations into balanced dialogues where everyone feels valued, strengthening not only the relationship but your entire social network. Pause and reflect. Where in your relationship are you following a predictable pattern? What if you inverted it right now? How might that shift the power dynamic? Chapter 4. Calculated absence. The longing that reignites the flame. One law of attraction: we want what is not easy. Your constant presence kills interest. Calculated absence reignites passion. Scarcity psychology: rare items are worth more. Dopamine from the hunt: the brain releases pleasure in anticipation, not possession. Stoicism from Marcus Aurelius: cultivate voluntary absence for clarity. Create moments where the person misses you. Do not disappear, but prioritize your life, cultivating independence that naturally attracts. Practical example: do not always respond right away. Have hobbies, friends. The person thinks, what is she doing without me? Longing activates the DMN, obsessing over you. Another living example: after a good date, do not send an immediate message. It was great, when is the next? Wait a day and say something casual like, I thought of a cool place for us to go. The absence of the expected validation creates positive anxiety. Did she really like it? I need to confirm and propose something better. VT. In a relationship, if the person cancels a plan due to tiredness or commitment, do not complain or suggest an immediate alternative. Say, no problem, enjoy the time, and go out with friends or focus on a Stoic book. On return, they initiate contact with more enthusiasm, feeling the lack of your guaranteed presence and adjusting to prioritize you in future plans. C in daily routine. Limit night calls to 2 to 3 times a week. Use the free time to read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or train. The person notices the change. She does not call every day anymore. What is keeping her so fulfilled? This reignites the flame because absence turns routine into desire, making them plan surprises to regain the space. Balance, presence, plus unpredictable absence keeps emotion. You become a complement, not a need. Stoic freedom. A deeper example: during a phase of their emotional distance, like weeks of cold responses, do not ask, what is wrong, repeatedly. Live your full life, meditating on Stoic virtues or training. When reconnecting, share briefly the growth, like, these days helped me reflect on what really matters. The previous absence makes them value more, creating stronger bonds, where the relationship becomes a partnership, not dependence. Pause and reflect. When was the last time you were always available? What if you created some absence? How might that make them miss you more? Chapter 5. Subtle rejection. Boundaries that teach respect. The power of no is devastating. We are taught to please, but subtle rejection sets boundaries. Psychology. Rejection activates the amygdala, but subtle teaches value. Neuroscience. Boundaries strengthen the prefrontal cortex, reducing emotional dependence and creating neural paths of self-respect. Stoicism from Epictetus. Accept what you cannot control. Define what you can. Say no to crumbs. Firm without drama. Cultivating temperance that attracts genuine respect. Practical example. Unplanned date, like let's go out anytime. It will not work. Let's schedule properly with advance notice. The person learns, respect deserves time and effort. Another living example, if the person suggests something you do not like a movie you hate or a plan that ignores your interests, say, I prefer something else. What do you think of balancing it? The subtle no shows standards, forcing adjustment without confrontation, and the person starts consulting your preferences more, recognizing your value. In discussions, if the person ignores your feeling like you are exaggerating, do not force it with long emotional arguments. Say, I understand your side, but I need space to think, and pause the conversation. The rejection teaches emotions deserve consideration, and in the next interaction they return with empathy, seeking reconciliation to avoid the discomfort of the set boundary. See in routine, casual night message asking for immediate attention. I am reading now. Let's talk tomorrow calmly. This establishes boundaries without confrontation, training the person to respect your time and space, transforming impulsive requests into planned dialogues. Do not over-justify. Stoic simplicity. This separates serious from casual. You teach treatment by reaction, virtue of justice. A final advanced relationship example. If the person prioritizes hobbies or friends over time together on weekends, reject subtly. Go enjoy it. I have my plans too, like a solo walk to reflect. The balance emerges because boundaries create genuine reciprocity and the person adjusts to include you in activities, seeing the no as an invitation to deserve more presence. Pause and reflect. What is one boundary you need to set in your relationship? What would happen if you said no subtly next time? Chapter 6. Mystery, the enigma that addicts the mind. Mystery makes any person addicted. Revealing everything at the beginning kills desire. Reveal gradually. Curiosity psychology. The brain releases dopamine in discoveries. Neuroplasticity. Mystery rebuilds interest connections, keeping the DMN active in positive thoughts about you. Stoicism from Seneca. Keep wisdom for the right moments. Be an enigma. Share layers gradually, cultivating patience that attracts depth. Practical example, do not tell your whole story on the first date. Leave open questions. The person thinks about you, obsessed with unraveling. Another living example. In daily conversations, respond to questions with partial stories. It was an amazing trip last year, but the best was the lesson I learned about detachment. I will tell more another time. Curiosity grows, making them initiate more dialogues to fill the enigma, transforming superficial exchanges into deep connections. In routine, do not share your entire diary. Mention vague hobbies like, I am exploring something new that challenges me emotionally. The person asks more, investing time to understand, which strengthens the bond without you needing to reveal everything at once. Do not fake it. Natural mystery from a rich life. You become an infinite book, not a disposable newspaper. A deeper example, during a romantic dinner, instead of listing all dreams and fears, immediately say, I have a big goal for this year inspired by Stoic readings, but it is a secret until I make it concrete to keep focus. The enigma activates the DMN, obsessing over you for days, leading to recurring questions and greater emotional investment, like surprises related to your secret to get closer. Pause and reflect. What part of your life could you make more mysterious? How might that make the other person more curious about you? Chapter 7. Invisible competition. The instinct that awakens conquest. People want what others desire. Invisible competition awakens primitive instinct. Evolutionary psychology. Competition for status activates testosterone, amygdala, dopamine in victory over rivals, creating natural urgency. Stoicism. Focus on virtue, not competition, but presence naturally attracts, as Marcus Aurelius emphasized social balance. Practical example. Keep social life active. Mention casual compliments from friends. The person feels urgency. I am not the only one interested. Another living example. Post a photo with a group of friends without exaggeration. The person notices interactions and asks, who is that in the background? Looked fun. The subtle competition awakens effort to stand out, like proposing more exclusive plans. In routine, accept social invitations. Tell briefly, I went out with the group yesterday. It was lively and reflective. The instinct activates, she has options beyond me. I need to put in effort. Subtle. Do not force jealousy. You become the prize, not an option. A final example. In casual conversation, say, "I received an interesting invitation for an event this week. I will evaluate." The person adjusts plans to compete, inviting you to something better, strengthening the bond without you needing to manipulate directly, just living a full life that naturally attracts. Pause and reflect. How can you subtly show your full life without making the other person jealous? What might that do to their interest? Chapter 8. Powerful Indifference, the freedom that terrifies. Genuine indifference frees. Do not depend on approval for happiness. Psychology, dependence creates chronic anxiety. Indifference brings fulfillment and resilience. Neuroscience, detachment reduces inflammatory cytokine, brings peace and hormonal balance. Stoicism from Marcus Aurelius, indifference to the external. Be complete alone. Partner becomes a bonus, not the center of the universe. Practical example. Delay in their response. Do not suffer or send more messages. Focus on yourself, like reading or walking. The person notices, "She does not need me to be okay." Awakens effort to reconnect. Another living example. If the person cancels a plan, say, "Okay, good night, take care," and continue your routine without drama. Indifference makes them reflect. Why did she not insist or complain? What changed her so much? In routine, cultivate independent hobbies. Share casually, "I am busy with this that makes me grow." Your freedom attracts them, because indifference contagiously inspires respect and curiosity. A deeper example. During a phase of their emotional doubt, like days of cold responses, do not ask, "What is wrong?" repeatedly. Live your full life, meditating on Stoic virtues or training. When reconnecting, they invest more, seeing your stability as magnetic and safe, transforming the relationship into something balanced where both support each other without codependence. Pause and reflect. Where are you depending too much on their validation? What if you practiced indifference today? Chapter 9. Self-worth, the feast you deserve. Revolution, recognize your worth. Do not accept crumbs. Positive psychology. High self-esteem activates internal reward, reducing external need. Neuroscience. Self-worth rebuilds confidence neural paths, activating the endogenous reward system. Stoicism from Epictetus. Not events. Opinions disturb. Celebrate daily qualities. High standards attract equals, creating emotional abundance. Practical example, reject below treatment. Invest in yourself, like Stoic journaling. Partner adjusts or leaves, you gain clarity and peace. Another living example, list 5 daily qualities, wisdom, resilience, used to refuse bad invitations. It does not align with what I value in myself. The person perceives your internal feast and elevates the offer, like planning more meaningful dates. In routine, prioritize self-care. Say, "I need time for myself to recharge my virtue." Self-worth manifests in posture, magnetic and serene. A deeper example, during a discussion about priorities, affirm, "I deserve mutual respect as I give to myself." Their neuroplasticity adjusts because your value inspires theirs, transforming crumbs into full reciprocity, where the relationship becomes a partnership of mutual growth. Pause and reflect. What is one quality you have that you undervalue? How can you celebrate it today to raise your standards? Chapter 10. Liberating Detachment, the peace that does not depend on anyone. Detachment, release control of outcomes. Give your best without attachment. Psychology. Attachment generates chronic anxiety. Detachment brings fulfillment and resilience. Neuroscience reduces rumination, activates balanced DMN for creativity and peace. Stoicism from Seneca. Accept the inevitable with grace. Love without neediness. Partner becomes a complement, not the universe's center. Practical example. Send affection without expecting immediate return. Live the present, focusing on virtuous actions. Another living example. If the person hesitates on commitment, detach. I am open, but I do not force what does not flow naturally. Your freedom attracts them, repels toxic, and creates space for authentic connections. In routine, meditate daily on what I control is my response, not theirs. Detachment frees unnecessary suffering. A deeper example, after a fight about expectations, reflect stoically. I do not control their feelings. I control mine with reason. Internal peace reconquers trust because detachment balances dynamics, transforming relationships into shared journeys without pressure, where both grow free. Pause and reflect. What outcome in your relationship are you two attached to? What if you detached today? How would that bring peace? Final transformation. Closing. These 10 pillars are not random. They are a Stoic progression. Start with Chapter 1. Wounded ego. Recognize others' weakness to stop fawning. This breaks initial dependence and plants the seed of balance. Chapters 2 and 3, strategic silence plus inverted mirror, create void and flip patterns. Neuroplasticity begins, transforming reactivity into conscious strategy. Chapters 4 and 5, calculated absence plus subtle rejection, set boundaries. Stoic temperance builds self-worth, teaching mutual respect without confrontations. The flip in Chapter 6, mystery. From reactive to strategic, dopamine curiosity activates genuine desire, elevating the relationship from superficial to deep. Chapters 7 and 8, invisible competition. Powerful indifference, awaken conquest without effort. Indifference frees codependence, creating natural attraction based on internal freedom. Chapters 9 and 10, self-worth, liberating detachment. Internal first. Internal peace attracts emotional feast, where love becomes choice, not need. You leave transformed, from beggar of crumbs to builder of feast. You do not beg, you attract. You do not control, you influence with virtue. Relationships become Stoic balance, not emotional prison, and you live with serenity, regardless of who enters or leaves. If this freed you, comment, "Today I rise." It represents your victory over dependence. Daily anchor for detachment and self-worth. Share with someone accepting crumbs. Subscribe for more Stoicism applied to real relationships. Master your mind, or it will master you. This is the Stoic equilibrium. Reason as a way of life, virtue as strength, discipline as the path.